we utilize PayPal as a partner, as a payment method. And PayPal allows you to go to a store and load your PayPal balance with cash. And that allows you to make a digital payment, even if you don't have a bank account or you don't have a card, whether that's debit or credit, right? So just understanding the community, understanding the reasons and the choices allows us to find the solution to overcome and help our service provider and their constituents.
Hey everyone, it's Bob Crossan. I'm the editorial director for Wastewater Digest. I'm joined today by Sara Phelps. She's VP of Payment Operations for Invoice Cloud, and they've conducted a survey of online payments and produced a report about it. So we're going to learn a little bit about that and how it matters for you as a water or wastewater professional. So Sara, thank you so much for taking your time today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, so why don't we start with a little bit of context so we know who actually took this survey? Could you explain the types of people who were taking this surveys to give us some understanding of what you were capturing in that data?
Yes, so we've been doing this survey for the past few years, and the survey captured about 2001 US adults who broadly represent the US population based on age, gender, region, and household income, education. So it's just a good representation of everybody in the community.
Okay. And what were some of the key findings that you guys found from this report? Obviously, that's a lot of responses, so you have some pretty darn good data.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think one of my we can probably spend the entire hour looking at the key findings, but mobile devices. Mobile devices continue to be the favorite way for bill pay in the past 12 months, and it's a top channel Americans prefer to make bill payments on. And the reason for it, of course, is the flexibility and the convenience and the speed of it. So another finding was debit cards and credit cards are the top two ways Americans like to pay their bills still. And then paperless. 2/3 of Americans are enrolled in paperless for all or more than half of their recurring billings. And what else? For those enrolled in paperless billing for all the recurring bills, preferring to receive a paper bill and not having an option to enroll are top reasons why not.
Okay. So a lot of mobility and convenience factor, but then also very digital oriented with debit cards and credit cards so that you don't have to use stamps or envelopes as much anymore.
Yes, but you will be surprised too. Every time we've taken this survey, I have been surprised by the not portion of the survey, like those who don't and why and how and who they are. So I always find that piece to be more fascinating than those who adopt. I think by default, I expect people, especially after COVID, to adopt digital payments, but there is always a population that does not.
Yeah. So how do you see when you look at these findings through the lens of a water or a wastewater professional or a water or wastewater utility who's accepting payments from customers? What types of things are you applying to that? How does this inform the way that those systems or those utilities should look at their payment options for their customers?
So as Invoice Cloud, of course, as a third-party service provider, we work with our service providers to understand their population, right? The population can tell you a lot about the behavior. Why are they choosing the methods they're choosing? Why do they have the preferences they do? And by understanding the reasons, you can overcome the obstacles, right? For example, we do have a utility provider who is specialized in distressed utilities. So they acquire distressed utilities, and by just that simple fact, you understand that there is a large community that is underbanked. They don't have access to digital payments. They may not have access to internet. They may not have access to banks, let alone cards, right? So understanding that allows us to offer the service provider an alternative to that community and to that base of bill payers. Again, to provide an example, we utilize PayPal as a partner, as a payment method. And PayPal allows you to go to a store and load your PayPal balance with cash. And that allows you to make a digital payment, even if you don't have a bank account or you don't have a card, whether that's debit or credit, right? So just understanding the community, understanding the reasons and the choices allows us to find the solution to overcome and help our service provider and their constituents.
Yeah, so understanding the demographics of your area, any impoverished challenges that would arise from that. I recall an anecdote from a couple years ago at a trade show I was at where Esri, the GIS mapping software, talked about how they were able to identify a problem for a utility by locating where all the payments were not being made at and how it was aligned with a highway that bisected the community that they couldn't cross because they didn't have cars to go and pay in person. And so it was
That
a
is
great
so
opportunity to, like, similar to what you're saying here, of like identify the challenges that the people are running into to make that, reduce that barrier as much as possible, right?
exactly. Exactly. And there is a solution around pretty much everything, all the obstacles that we're seeing about digital adoption. There's something you can offer to make sure there is acceptance and you're overcoming that obstacle.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you said, there's a push toward this mobile, this digital side of things. How should utilities be adapting or changing their strategies when it comes to bill payments or accepting billing from their customers moving forward? I mean, do you expect great change over the next couple of years, or do you think it's going to be a steady incline as more and more folks adopt digital payments?
Uh, so for I mean, there is payment industry in general, and then there is utilities, and then there is
Mm-hmm.
Invoice Cloud, right? So as far as Invoice Cloud goes, we're going to continue to see steady rise.
Mm-hmm.
I believe based on our level of adoption, which is very, very high, it's unlikely to see any extremes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of our billers and service providers have very, very high above average adoption levels, which makes the increase, like the remaining increase is not really that much to go
Mm.
anymore. So the time where we see the biggest adoption is usually the first year, is
Okay.
when they go from very low adoption to like this really big hike, and then it steadies into a slow increase as close as it gets to that 100% marker. So yes, it will continue to increase. What I do see is the changes of like how you utilize that adoption, right? It's not just digital. Okay, so people no longer send paper check or go into the office. Now they're paying online. But there are other things too that they would do. For example, paperless billing, right? That's some sub adoption, if you will. It's not just that they're paying online. Well, now they're not getting paper mail anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they enroll in auto pay. So that's more adoption digitally, but it's far beyond the just making the payment online. So I expect to see those changes increasing year after year.
Yeah, that's a good point on the auto pay and on paperless, because it turns into a challenge then of how you communicate with your utility as well, because there's often communique on a paper bill that goes out from a utility. Now you have to find a different avenue, really. So that's a really fascinating concept I hadn't considered until you mentioned that. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely communicating and educating is a huge part of what we do. Uh, People don't know that they can pay online unless you educate
mhm.
them on the fact that you can pay online or what they can pay online with or what are all the options available to them. So communication has to continue to expand as the offerings expand and as the options and as again as they see the behavior of the constituents. Like if you have the ability to make online payments and you're still seeing that people don't, we've seen it within our portfolio where if I personally were to log into that service provider's website, it's not easy to find the pay here button, right? So this
Mm,
is part of how we would coach and mentor and continue to educate, and how they also educate their constituents. Hey, in order to pay online, you need to click here, or you go here, there, and that other place. So yeah, constant communication and adjustment to your payer base is really key, and it's not a one-time thing. It continues to
mhm.
evolve as the years go by.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I feel like I actually did learn a great deal.
Oh,
I had
good.
an epiphany even, so I appreciate your time today.
Of course. There is one more thing that I forgot to mention, the username and passwords. Username and password
Oh,
is a huge thing for us. And it's something that we've definitely been able to overcome by using our Express Pay or one-time pay where you do not need to log in. We have found that the majority of our abandoned payments have come from the fact that people have forgotten their password or they just don't want to go through
oh.
the exercise. So yeah, this is how we accommodated that obstacle. And again, as we get feedback from why people are abandoning or why people are not adopting, we make the changes accordingly to overcome those obstacles.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really do
Of
appreciate your
course.
time. For everyone who's watching, you can check out our video description below for some links on some things regarding billing and payments in the water and wastewater industry. And once more to Sarah, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you.
All right. And that's it.